Well, hi, thanks. It's 3:10, and as they say on Monty Python, now for something completely different. I'm Greg Lucas from the California State Library. It's great to be here and catch up with friends and meet new ones. Just in the short time I've been here, I've had at least 3 or 4 Humphrey Bogart and Claude Rains moments, like from the end of Casablanca, where you just kind of go, whoa, it's the beginning of a beautiful friendship. So I hope all of you are having the same experiences that I am. The best thing about being a moderator is I shoot off the starter pistol and then shut up and get out of the way while the smart people talk. So our subject is communicating with and beyond our communities. And I sort of was, in talking about this, was replacing communicating with marketing. And I think probably part of the reason I did that is because I just finished a course in my master's program in library sciences on marketing. And so it's fresh in my mind, right? So like after the summer slide, it'll be gone. But or there'll be less of it left, I guess. But one of the things they were saying is I kind of believe that marketing was advertising, and it's a lot more than that. That before you go out and communicate with other people, you've got to know what it is you want to communicate. And so that demands discussion and decision-making on what you are and what you're trying to do. And so at the State Library, we're 165 years old, and we're now beginning to try and figure out what we want to be when we grow up. So Renee was going to talk a little bit about some of those things you need to figure out before you start communicating with other people. What's the foundation you have to lay before you go out and reach out to other people in the community?
And before I start, there should be a slide up that has Project Enable on it. I'm not sure who's, okay. That would be it. Yeah.
All right.
All right, thank you. Well, good afternoon, everybody. I would like to start with just a very short story before I get to what's on the slide over there. Picture a bright-eyed, idealistic 20-something in their first career as a special education teacher, with a brand new, hot off the press diploma in exceptional education, or again, special education. And think about the first year of school. And for me, that was in a middle school where I had what was then called a self-contained class. I had 15 students who were with me all day long because the nature of their disabilities and abilities, they were not able to be mainstream. So I had them with me all day. And that was fine, because I loved those students, and I loved reading to them, and I loved books, and I could not wait to introduce them to the school library. The problem was that our class had not been scheduled for library time. So being a new teacher, I thought, well, I don't want to make any waves. I don't want to make anybody angry. So I'll wait a little while. I waited a couple months, and we still didn't make it onto the school library schedule. So I bounced on over to the school librarian and said, hey, I'd like to start bringing my students in now. And before I could finish asking to do that, her response was, oh, no, we don't have any materials for your students. And I didn't know what to do. And no amount of begging would get her to change her mind or to consider any alternatives for what she could do to help my students to enjoy the library the way that I wanted them to. So I started out with that story, not because I like to be negative and not to demonstrate that I can hold a long-term grudge, because that did happen about 20 years ago. But I do still remember it very vividly. But I wanted to share it more as an illustration of what can happen if we fail to communicate with our library communities. And so I think that there are 3 important things that need to happen in order for us to effectively communicate with our patrons. The first one is that we have to recognize who our communities actually are. And that sounds really simple, but in the example, the story that I just shared with you, it's obvious that that particular librarian did not understand that my students were part of the community and that they deserve to be able to avail themselves of the library program. What we should be asking is, who is using our library, and even more importantly, who wants to use our libraries? The second thing is that once we've identified who our communities actually are, then we have to value those communities, and not just value them, but demonstrate that we value those communities. And we do that by providing meaningful and appropriate and inclusive programs and services. And then the third thing is that we have to commit ourselves to becoming educated about our patrons and to becoming educated about how best to serve those patrons. And this is where I want to direct your attention a little bit to this slide that shows a screenshot or a partial screenshot of Project Enable, which is an IMLS-funded grant project. Now, Enable stands for Expanding Non-Discriminatory Access by Librarians Everywhere. The focus of the project is to connect with and to meet the needs of patrons with disabilities. The project has gone through a lot of iterations. What you see now has come after a couple of more, I would say, on-the-ground type of things. So the first iteration was that there were face-to-face workshops that were given to school librarians and teams of teachers in the state of New York. And then the next part of the project was those same face-to-face workshops for school librarians and classroom teachers, but at a national level. So people from all over the nation came, not just New York State librarians and teachers. And now what is happening is that Project Enable is its own standalone interactive website. I think I have on the slide, it's free. So that's an even more interesting and wonderful thing about the project. What the project does is to provide training for a wide range of people. Now, the training is, of course, focused more for people who are library practitioners, but anybody can access the website. It's not just school librarians. It's not just public librarians. It could be anyone who is interested in learning how to provide services for people who have disabilities who want to use your libraries. The site can also be used by individuals or by groups. And so I'll give you an example. If a particular librarian wants to learn more about how to provide services for a patron or patrons with visual impairments, they can register on the site, go through the different modules, and learn about exactly what they want to learn about. With respect to groups, I use it for my classes. I teach online classes that increasingly are focused on how to serve people with disabilities, both at the school level and at the broader level of public librarianship, academic librarianship. And what I do with my classes is we have our site that is provided through Syracuse University where my students submit their work and do their readings. But then we use Project Enable as a parallel site that provides additional training that supplements everything that we're doing in the course. I would like to share a little bit about what Project Enable actually includes. There are 5 specific modules. I'm just going to read those to you. One is disability awareness. One is about disability law and policy. One is about creating an accessible library. There's also planning inclusive programs and instruction, and there's assistive technology in libraries. And each of those modules contains just a wealth of information, and again, it's very interactive. There are videos, there are readings, there are exercises and games, and there are also these very easy to access self-assessments. I want to be careful about when I say tests or quizzes. People think, oh gosh, I don't want to do that because I don't want to be graded. Unless you're in my class, you won't be graded for it. Okay? But you do have the opportunity to assess what you've learned through those different modules. So I'll stop there because I don't have enough time to talk about how wonderful everything is about Project Enable. And I do want to leave you, though, with just a parting comment. And I know I'm preaching to the choir, but I have to say this anyway. It is important to keep in mind that we have the need to have more than just an obligation to serve our patrons. We actually have a privilege in serving our patrons. And if we keep that in mind, then we'll come up with all kinds of innovative ways to engage them and to make the access to information needs and information wants available to them. So I'll stop there, and I look forward to questions later.
Thanks.
Wow.
So it's a panel on communicating, and we're doing it beyond our communities. And Jennifer Peters is a community engagement administrator. What exactly is that?
Well, thanks, Greg.
I'm glad you asked me that.
I'm glad you asked me that question.
And the softball pitch
We
goes
didn't
over the
plan
plate.
that at all.
Yeah, right.
I am Jennifer Peters. I'm the Community Engagement Administrator at the Texas State Library. As far as I know, I'm the only Community Engagement Administrator at a state library agency. If any of you know of anybody else, I'm dying for some companionship. So please do let me know.
Well, at least for now.
I thought I would just talk a little bit about how the position came to be, and then pull in some of the communications pieces that I've learned both in this position and then also working for several years outside the library community in the nonprofit sector. And I'll start with that. My previous job was as the executive director of a nonprofit that promoted partnerships in education. And I learned about lots of really great work that was going on in the state, where schools and school districts were partnering with local businesses, with local colleges, with all sorts of things. And there was one in Corpus Christi that just really stuck out to me, and I believe it was called the Coastal Bend Education Group. And it was the local workforce board, one of the local school districts, one of the local community colleges, and a nonprofit that helped low-income kids get the resources they needed to be ready for school. And they had actually purchased some land or rented a place in an old mall and created this wonderful resource for the kids who needed help to go to start to go back to college. So who was not at the table? Libraries. And I think that part of what the community engagement initiatives can do is help raise our profile so that when these kind of groups are coming together, it's just automatically assumed that libraries should be at the table. And I think sometimes that's something that we struggle with as a profession. So my position came about out of some strategic discussions out of the Library Development and Networking Division at the State Library, looking at what are we doing well, what areas are we still needing to address. And out of that, there's even a whiteboard, but I can see it. They're started to clump together a lot of different things that related to 21st century librarianship and partnerships and managing change that kind of clumped together into the community engagement umbrella. And I have to give credit to my division director, Deborah Luttrell, for kind of having the vision to create a position that would take on some of these initiatives. Our division, probably like some of your divisions, is highly structured, and so people kind of have one job. So they're the person who collects library statistics, or they're the person who's in charge of our online databases. And so to kind of create a position that was kind of vague, and I actually wrote down some of the things on the job description. Plan, develop, and implement projects to address identified priorities and initiatives. So there was a lot of vagueness about that. And I actually had a lot of people at the beginning when I started the position say, well, what exactly are you going to be doing? So, luckily I had been working with partnerships. I'd been working in nonprofits, so I kind of understood that it's not really a thing that you do, it's a process, and it's a mindset. And I think that that's what drives community engagement. And so as I came into the position, it was a brand new position in March of 2014. We needed to do a couple of things to get going. And first of all was to develop a plan because, again, it's so broad. Community engagement, it touches everything, doesn't it? So we needed to kind of focus in on what it was that we were going to be doing to start off with. So I came up with a 2-year plan, which has kind of changed here and there. But the kind of things that we've really focused on in this first year and 5 months is creating community partnerships and engagement for the agency, for the Texas State Library. Some of these were extremely easy. We had a formal partnership in place with the Literacy Texas group within a week. Some of them we're still working on. The Texas Workforce Commission, we're still meeting, trying to figure out who it is that we need to talk to and to get things done. So that was a piece of it. I'm also in charge of the EDGE initiative, which is an Urban Libraries Council program that has a strong community engagement component to its online assessment tool for public libraries. Workforce development is a key priority for our director and librarian, Mark Smith, and that is a piece that I've been working on. And then also providing opportunities for local libraries to build their capacity around community engagement. And that includes trainings. We've used some of our EDGE findings to drive some webinars and trainings. The most recent thing that we did, which literally finished just last Friday, was three-day trainings by the Harwood Institute for Public Innovation, which is part of the ALA's Libraries Transforming Committees program. We were able to bring those to the state and offer them to librarians for free over the past month. So that's been mostly what I've been doing. We have also convened a library community engagement advisory committee to help give us advice and guidance. We haven't quite figured out what that's going to be yet. You know, there's talk about a website, there's talk about a listserv, there's talk about best practices, a toolkit. That's kind of still coming together. But I have to say that we had almost 90 people apply for the 12 positions that were on that committee. So that to me indicates that there's a lot of interest, in the state around that. So the other thing, and I may not be able to get into communications as much as, but part of what I see this role doing is being out at non-library events representing the library community. And that includes being at literacy conferences, nonprofit conferences, workforce meetings, municipal league meetings. And this is where there was a question that we had a question about, you know, what is a barrier to effective communication in the library world? And my answer immediately was bookmarks, because we love bookmarks. And guess what? Not everybody else in other sectors have any concept of bookmarks. And so for us, learning the vocabulary that other sectors use so that we can effectively communicate with them is, I think, the most important thing. So time's up, but I'd like to at some point come back and can talk a little bit about the nonprofit community's role in libraries and communications.
Thank you.
Wow, that's great.
So like our host and several other members of the audience here, Rivkah is one of California's rock star library directors. Well, and sometimes she gives me the laminated pass, and I can come backstage and party with the band. It's really cool. But one of the things that she does extraordinarily well is reach out to what I think of anyway as non-traditional communities, right?
Yeah.
To link up the library with them.
We kind of like that. We
Right.
kind of like doing that. So I feel totally intimidated because everybody's so organized. But I want to talk a little bit about, I don't want to do the how I did it good, but some things that I perceive as, these are my opinions only, but I think sometimes we're our own worst enemies. And one of the questions we were asked to think about was, what are the barriers to effective partnerships? And truly the number one barrier in my mind is ourselves. We have met the enemy, and he is us. We don't always think of ourselves as being relevant to solving a community problem or an issue. And I think we're much better at it than we were 35 years ago. But I will tell you, when I was a young baby librarian, I was so excited about being a librarian because I was one of those rare people who'd never worked in a library. I decided to go to library school because I liked people and I wanted to help them. And I remember talking to one of my managers saying, you know, if people knew what we did, we'd have more people coming in. And the response I got was, shut up, kid, we have enough people coming in. Well, that's not true anymore. And I think one of the things that we have had to deal with are those kind of now assumptions. Libraries are no longer relevant. I have the internet. I buy my books. I download everything. Why do I need to engage with the library? And also, the one that hurts me the most is, you think the library has a role in solving the community's problems? Like, what do you do about what do you have to do with homelessness? Well, come visit my library any given day and I can show you. What do you have to do with veterans? Well, let us tell you that 30% of the homeless population, based on a census we did, are homeless, or are veterans. So those are the kinds of things that people need to understand in terms of if we're solving our community's issues, then there are tools and talents that we have to help do that. I think internally, we have a scarcity mentality. I think we worry very much that just as my manager did 30 plus years ago, we don't want to tell people about what we do because we'll be inundated. And I think sometimes we still suffer from that. I think sometimes in our own minds, we actually think we don't have anything to offer the community. And that also hurts my heart a lot. And that we actually even think libraries are irrelevant. I'm just here until I can get my pension, and then, the library can close. One of the things that I think we ought to really embrace, we do have a brand. And I think librarians are very much a part of that brand, and I think we are critical to the brand. And I embrace my geekiness and my nerdiness and everything that I do because people think librarians are really smart. That needs to be part of our brand, but I'm going to say something, and it's a bad word often in groups like this. I'm going to use the B word. Books really are our brand, and I will tell you why I know this. We subscribe to, 3 dozen databases, whatever. Not a lot. We're poor. We're not like LA Public. We're a poor little library. I look at the stats every month of what's being used. Top 5, always, all around books. What are the new books coming out? What are the Beanstack? How many are there other Beanstack libraries here if you're a public library? Our patrons love that tool because it's connecting the two things we do best. Our really smart librarians who know our children's books with our children's books and with the community. You set up a profile for your kid. You don't even need a library card. That's heresy. And we're bringing people in for the first time who've never used the library before. I have 3 minutes. Wow. So we have done some pretty interesting partnerships at Sacramento. Everything from getting a local microbrewery to brew a beer when we did an Edgar Allan Poe anthology. I've been trying to get somebody to make Edgar Allan Porter for me for 25 years. They did it, right? I go to the Chamber of Commerce Civic Engagement Committee every month because, and at first it was like, why is she here? And if I wasn't going, another staff, why are they here? Why are they here? And now it's, you can facilitate a strategic planning session for us and help us with that? You bet we can. So I think part of it is, it's Woody Allen. 85% of it is just showing up. For me, one of the best sort of paybacks for that is then when there's a thing in Sacramento called Cap to Cap where local politicians go back to Washington, D.C. and talk about issues that are important to us, like water, because there's a lot of water we send down here so we can all drink water when we're in L.A. But a lot of other issues, too.
Easy killer.
Sorry. And I was talking to water, education, employment, you name it. But I was talking to somebody from the chamber, and they were so excited. They said, I went to Cap, and it was so great. We saw Congresswoman Matsui, and she talked about net neutrality and mentioned you and how you know all about this. That was a great connection. That's a business person who didn't think it was relevant to our community and now understands that it is. I think some of the things that we have to be aware of in terms of our successes and our failures, just keep showing up, just keep doing it. We have some work to do on our own cultures, and we have to help people overcome the fear they feel about changing what we do. I think we also, depending on our governance structure, have some stakeholders who are not terribly invested in seeing us change what we do, so we have to educate them, and that's a real opportunity. And the more we do that, the more comfortable they will be with that. And I think externally there are stewardship issues, like why is the library doing that? And we have to be aware of how we interact with who we're interacting with. I got a call recently from somebody who's doing development for a very large, yet-to-be-named philanthropist who said, I have this guy who wants to really give back to the community. And I'm like, what's his name? Have him call me. Here are the needs we have. We know, we're trying to do this high school graduation program. We have early literacy issues. Where does he want to put his money? We can help with that. And he said, Well, first I have to tell you where the money comes from. He made his fortune on medical marijuana. And I said, oh, well, we'll figure it out. But don't worry. It's an education issue. I think, and then the last thing I want to mention, going back to the book brand, is that we are heavily invested in social media at Sacramento Public Library. We're very active and try to engage with our community. And again, where they want to engage with us, the things that we know from using the analytics, we buy a lot of Google AdWords to try to push things out. We know that the things that people really want to talk about when they're engaging with librarians, guess what? Books. So that's okay. It's all right. I think we need to embrace it because, again, I met another philanthropist the other day. We're now going to do a book club. You can be in the book club, Greg, because you're in Sacramento. And he was, and the whole point was, I love to read. You're a librarian. Make me a book club. And it's like, you bet. We've been talking about, okay, let's give him a really good book to read. So I think, honestly, the last thing I'll say is we just need to pay attention to what's going on out there and make sure that we can share our message about what it is that we have to offer. Because, trust me, we have a lot to offer our communities. They just need to know about it. Thank you.
Okay, so we have 15 minutes. What do you want to have Renee, Jennifer, and Rivkah talk about?
They want another break.
More cookies.
It is. It's 3:15 in the
They want a
afternoon.
cookie. Okay, where are the ringers in the? Oh, there's one of them.
Yeah,
There's the
there's
ringer.
one.
Okay, good.
I'll be a
Maria
ringer.
just got your text, Fred, so she's going to ask a question.
Question for Jennifer. Are there conversations, I'm sorry, this is Christy Hill with OCLC. Are there conversations happening at the state library layer about this shift in the staffing in the Texas State Library, and are other state libraries considering doing something like this that you know of?
Do you mean having a community engagement
Yes.
administrator? That's why I'm asking for. I'm crowdsourcing this one because I have not heard of this anywhere else, and I'd love to have other colleagues.
I will say that in Georgia, we have a director of communications and strategic partnerships,
Excellent.
and everything you described is exactly what he does. So,
Okay,
yes, you do have a compatriot in Georgia.
I will want to get his name. Definitely.
Absolutely.
Daphne, did you have your hand up?
Daphne DeLeon, State Library and Archives of Nevada. So we don't have a position like Georgia has mentioned that has your title. Those duties fall to my deputy. They get to do all of that. So, and I do it too. I don't know if Oklahoma wants to chime in or Oregon.
What are they clustered?
Safety in numbers.
Here we go. Joan, just say.
Yes. Joan Clark from Arizona. I was just going to mention that we've just been running a series on community engagement to help train library staff in how to be good facilitators. Some of the basic skills so they feel a little more comfortable going out into community organizations. And we actually assigned each of the participants in the program a mentor. Gave them assignments to go out and practice, and then we also had a facilitator come in. So we did an initial sort of learning session, go out, practice, lead something, come back in. But it was just our beginning, and we're looking. So your idea. In fact, I was just texting Holly Henley, who's our library development director, that maybe we want to pick up on this idea at the state library level, because we are also looking at what can we do more to solidify to be the role model for other library staff to be out there.
Well, I think thanks for that. That's a good point. One of the things that had been going on before my position was created was that there were community engagement programs that were going on, but they were generally kind of, someone would have a little extra time from outside their general duties of, say, doing small library management training, and they would take it on kind of, but they weren't able to devote themselves full time to it. So having this position kind of helped pull it all into a single place.
Maria? Oh.
Hi, I'm interested in, this is Heidi Silver-Picola from the U.S. Department of Education. I'm interested in the work that you're doing to go outside of your libraries and models that you might share about taking the library out of your buildings to the community.
One of the things that we've determined is pretty successful is we created a little pop-up library to serve a community that doesn't have a library. It's a really poor community, and in fact, I got a call while we were on break, and I knew it was from one of the advocates in that community. So we and we're hoping actually to work with the state library on this. Last year, we had a booth at the state fair, and we had a tremendous success with that. We did story times every day. We have a library mascot. Our mascot is Otterby Reading, and he's an otter. And Otterby is turning out to be, you want to talk about rock stars. There was a charitable giving day in Sacramento on May 5th, a big day of giving. I think it happens around the country. We went to the halftime event at noon, and Otterby, other nonprofits who were there to raise money were coming to get their picture taken with Otterby Reading and tweeting it out. So part of it is, and he's invited to, we're so excited, he's going to Dinger's birthday party. Dinger is the mascot for the local Giants affiliate baseball team. That Sunday, we're taking Dinger a library card for his birthday present. But I mean, part of it is we try to get out there and be where people are. We just did the county fair and had 500 people come through in an hour on one of the days. So those kinds of things help with that, gee, I didn't know the library, fill in the blank, because most people don't know. But trying to partner, we do a play summit. We're doing our 3rd annual play summit this year in September. We partner with a nonprofit called Fairy Tale Town to really focus on the importance of play and as it's in its role in learning. So finding those partners and then doing things out in the community has really helped, I think really helped us.
Yeah, I mean, I stole it from the ALA, but the slogan about how libraries change lives. And I think the more libraries can show the different ways that they change lives, right? The more value you have. And it's like what John was saying this morning. I mean, there's so many different ways that libraries help people that you can't, it's hard to measure like in kind of a quantitative bean counter way. So like if I come to your library and you help me write my resume so that I look like I might be actually employable, like I don't send you a note afterwards going, hey, geez, thanks. You know, I got this super cool job thanks to you helping me.
But actually, Greg, they do. That's exactly how many of we get these experiences all the time.
Stepped on my punch.
I'm sorry. I'm shut up. He's the state librarian.
No,
he can give us grants.
Yeah, it's okay.
Shut up, Rivkah.
It's okay. Go for it.
No, but truly, I get these stories from staff in the branches saying, "Here's so and so. He was so excited. They sent a Christmas card. We have health benefits now, thanks to the help we got from the library."
Well, and that program you talked about, this career online high school thing, did you do that in Georgia, or was it something else? Was it the GED program? Yeah, but I mean, John tells this story about graduating. I want to say 500 people, 500 something. 542. Okay. Yay. And how after demonstrating that his public library system was a tool in workforce development. I'm paraphrasing it pretty close. But so, like, that was the only number that the people with the checkbooks cared about. Like, they didn't care how many people walked in the door. They didn't care how many books circulated. They didn't care how many hits there were on the website. Like, he helped create 500, improved workers in the workforce. That's right. And, I mean, just briefly, shortly after I started a year ago at the library, there was a grant proposal in front of me from Contra Costa County called War Inc., which was about veterans from Iraq and Afghanistan and telling their story both to help them recover and to share it with other people. And so Rivkah was saying, you got to get out of your preconceived notions of libraries. I'm looking at that going, really? We're going to spend $6,000 on this? You got to be kidding me. And the smart people I work with said, hey, like it's $6,000, go with this, right? And so, it's not a traditional sort of library thing, but the films that they made are stunning, and you watch them, and it's again, it's not like a library, but it makes you sure want to go to a library to see more of that. And so I'm glad I work with a building full of smart people.
And if I can kind of go, as we're talking about communications and going out into the community, which is so important, this is where, as libraries, we really are all things to all people. And I think it's our tendency to want to show that when we're doing strategic communications. We just want to say, look at all this amazing stuff that we do. And I think we have a tendency then to overwhelm people. We're too wordy. We put too much stuff out there. And so for us to really think strongly about strategic communications where we prioritize and identify, I am leaving my library and I am going to all the workforce meetings that I can attend, because that's one of the things that we're prioritizing. And I'm trying to get with the municipal league and the city managers groups, because that's one of the things we're prioritizing. I could go pretty much anywhere and talk about how awesome libraries are, but we need to do it within the framework of a plan, because we can't do everything. And so having a strategic communications plan where you've identified who those key stakeholders are and who you're going to really focus in on in year 1 and year 2, rather than just throwing out everything and seeing what sticks, I think can be really important in the way that we do our work.
Well, and Jennifer hit on something too, just the desire to share all of the awesome things that libraries do. Like, I don't know about you guys, but like I go to a lot of public library websites, so they look like a ransom note, right? I mean, they're like, there's all this stuff happening on it. Yeah. And seriously,
exactly.
It's like you look at it and you go, hey, like, there's too much here, like, I don't want to be here.
Yeah.
And I think simplifying it, and the message, like, they used to tell me growing up, okay, what's your Hollywood pitch, right? You got 2 minutes in front of a Hollywood producer. I mean, how are you going to sell your movie or your plot idea? And I think we're as guilty of it as the next. Like, we'll have a wonderful exhibit of Yosemite, and so the photo of Yosemite is like super teeny, and there's all these words describing like how awesome the photo is.
Can I add something
go
to
for
that?
it. And then Maria had a question.
Our communications team wanted to meet with me the other day, and part of it was, what can we get rid of that's in print? And I walked into the room, and on the table was this pile that was about 3 feet across of bookmarks.
Bookmarks, yeah.
Bookmarks. And it was all these things, and we got it down to about a dozen pieces. More than they wanted, but it was, it's just all this detritus of civilization that they're going to throw it away anyway, right? Oof. So
I'm going to be tweeting out detritus of civilization.
Maria Carpenter, Santa Monica Public Library. Rivkah, I wanted to build off of, it's actually a comment, but I wanted to build off of your comment about people's love for books. So we've been doing a series of community forums facilitated by Maureen Sullivan, who's in the room. And we've also been we just wrapped up a community survey, and I just got the initial results back, and the number one thing that, of course, people love, the highest priority are books, which we actually heard echoed, mirrored at the community forums. But then the top service that people would like that we don't currently provide, 60% of people said co-working spaces. Mm-hmm. So I think that's really interesting. It's the old and then the newer idea, and really probably meeting a different user group for the co-working spaces. Mm-hmm. And then one thing that we're doing that's really, it's fun, but it's also connected to a well-being strategy that the city of Santa Monica is really working on, is we're doing pop-up beach libraries this summer. So we're going to actually be out on the beach. We're working with the Parks and Rec Department, Community and Cultural Affairs, including the Annenberg Beach House, which is a historic place. And we'll be, throughout the summer, and of course our staff eagerly volunteered to do it. But the idea actually came from frontline staff members. So, somebody was talking about innovation before. I think somebody maybe at Portland or about, creating that, making sure you organizationally create that space. And this is kind of a lessons learned for us, because we had applied for the Knight Foundation and we didn't get moved on to to invite a submission. But because of that, we asked people to submit ideas, and we tabled some of those ideas and we played with those ideas, and the pop-up beach library idea came from that. So I think it was a really good lesson for all the staff too, and then they can see that these guys, a reference librarian and a text service librarian, they put together this idea. They're going to be on the beach this summer having a lot of fun.
Right, so is there extra space for volunteers? You remind me of reference librarians in Fresno, right? So they took 3 or 4 reference librarians, sent them to this training like Dale Carnegie. I don't know what it was. It wasn't Dale Carnegie. But so now they cold call people in the neighborhood to tell them, hey, did you know that at your public library, for absolutely no cost whatsoever, we can help improve your bottom line at your business or whatever? So, when you read all these things about the heart being ripped out of reference libraries, here's a way of
giving it life.
Yeah, right.
That's great.
They were also the worst performing reference librarians, so it was a killer twofer, I thought.
Wow.
I'm not sure she'd like me to publicize that, but
Yeah, we are live streaming, I believe.
she'll be emailing me any moment.
I'd like to ask Renee to comment about some of the outcomes of your face-to-face workshops and trainings and stuff, both about lessons learned, and I'm sure you did like pre- and post-test about what people thought could be provided or some of the changes that came out of that training, as well as your online.
Sure. Well, the face-to-face workshops were, I think, really enlightening, especially for the classroom teachers. What we had was to bring, school librarians brought a team of, 2 of their colleagues from their schools that presumably they already had a relationship with, but they didn't necessarily really know what the school librarian did. And then through these workshops, they had a much better understanding of not only what a school librarian did, but also what they could do to partner with them to then increase literacy, to increase love of reading in their own classrooms. I think you asked about,
sort of the difference is what people came in with, what they left, which is what you talked about, but then maybe some other lessons.
One of the lessons that I think was learned was that school librarians are actually teachers too. And even though we think people already know that, a lot of people don't realize that school librarians are actually certified educators as well. And believe it or not, some of the people who came to the workshops, though they were very excited about coming, weren't aware that there has to be a school certification to be able to be a school librarian. Or teacher certification to be a school librarian. So that was a big thing that came out, in that we can plan lessons with you. We want to collaborate to plan lessons with the classroom teachers. That was something that was very eye-opening, that even though they already had a relationship, they weren't exactly 100% sure and in the know about what their colleagues were doing. And then now with respect to the site that's available now, I think it's phenomenal that now anybody can access this site. And I encourage you all, I know the slide's not up there now, but I encourage you to log in to projectenable.syr.edu and take a look at the modules. You're not going to be graded, promise. But you will learn a lot. And it's not only for people who are going into a library every day and doing, the work in the trenches. It's really for anyone who's interested in information provision. And I think that's what makes this such a great project, that anybody can learn from it and then be able to share information out. Thank you for asking that question.
Yeah, thanks, Susan. We're out of time.
Thank you.